basically it's seared pork chops with tomato, onion, zucchini, and a balsamic deglazing reduction, whatever you want to call it. I also add a little bit of crushed red pepper to it. That's one of those things that if you like crushed red pepper, you can. If you're not in the mood, you don't have to. We've got the cherry tomatoes, which I'm gonna have. I've got 2 zucchini, which I'm gonna slice. And I've got this onion, which I'm probably gonna use about half of. I may even use one of the zucchinis, it might be too much. Again, we're cooking for 2, me and Dan tonight, as I normally do. So I'm gonna get to chop. I think I'm gonna start with the zucchini first, which means I have to make a decision. Am I gonna use both or one? I think we're gonna start with one and then see how many I get out of this and then decide from there. So, zucchini is pretty basic. It's just slices. And you don't want them too thick and you don't want them too thin, but you don't want them so thick that they don't cook through, and you don't want them so thin that they're papery thin and you don't get any zucchini chips in there. And I think one zucchini is gonna do it because at the end of the day, that looks like plenty of zucchini. The next thing we're gonna do is our onion. And like I said, we're only gonna use about half of this. The other half I'm gonna use for what I'm making tomorrow. And then we're just gonna cut this into half moons. So, another wise person always told me, put the flat side down, that way nothing rolls away. That person was Chucky Sturman. He was a bartender for my mom and dad, and I learned in my mom and dad's bar how to cut properly. Next is the cherry tomatoes. Again, I count these out. There are 2 of us. So I would say probably about 6 cherry tomatoes per. So we'll do 12 cherry tomatoes if I have 12. And I think I do. Okay, great. So cherry tomatoes are next, and we're just gonna have them. All right, so there we go. We got about 12 cherry tomatoes, or I know we have 12 cherry tomatoes all cut up there. So those are all just gonna hang out there for a little while. And the next thing I'm gonna do is take care of our pork chops. Now, boneless pork chops work best for this. I've never tried it with the bone in, so I couldn't tell you. And what I actually have here is Dan and I had a pork roast one night, and it was just too big for the 2 of us, even with leftovers for lunch the next day. So I just cut the end off. Never be afraid to take something and have it if you know you're not gonna need it all. Especially, you know, even leftovers. Leftovers can only go so far. So I'm gonna cut these into 4s, hopefully. And again, the thickness of the pork chop doesn't matter. I'm just using what I got. Okay, so I took everything that I chopped up over there and brought it over here. I've got my fry pan or saute pan, whatever you want to call it, over about a medium to high heat with olive oil in it heating up. Again, you know me, I don't measure. I put enough in there to kind of lubricate things. There's a couple ways to see if your pan is hot. You can with some water. I just kind of hold my hand over it. Yeah, that's hot enough. So here we go. Hopefully nothing rolls off. I've got the pork cutlets. I've got them lightly salted and peppered. And we're just gonna stick them into the pan. And you know it's hot when they're sizzling. And we're just gonna let them get nice and brown on each side. It won't take long. Pork, you don't have to cook until it's well done. Pork you can cook, you know, medium rare. I actually have come around to that side where I like mine a little bit on the pink side. Oh, and while they're on this side, I'm gonna salt and pepper the other side. And again, slightly, I mean, I just do a little. You can always add salt later, you can't ever take it back. We're gonna take a look at this one now. Yeah, that's about good. Flip these puppies over. This is the type of dish too that you don't want to be in a silk blouse cooking because it does splatter a little. I don't have my apron on. So what we're gonna do is we'll let these brown up a little bit, and then we're going to stick them in a warming drawer, and then we're gonna make the rest of the dish. And it's really a one-pot wonder, which is awesome. I also don't believe you should play around with things you have browning. You know, you don't want to keep flipping them and flipping them and flipping them. It's all about getting that nice outer edge. And then I'm sort of weird about this, but the first one that I flip is also the first one that I take off. So I flip that one first. I flip that one second. I flip this one third. And again, I don't know if it makes a difference, but as I do this, I'm gonna actually turn down the heat a little bit as I'm taking these these off. Because again, these are going into my warming drawer where they're going to hang out until the rest of the dishes, which won't be long from now. So we're going to add a little more olive oil, and now we're going to add the vegetables. I like to add the zucchini and the onion first, so they get a little bit brown, and then I'll add the tomatoes last. So I've turned the heat down a little bit, just to keep it from splattering all over the place. And see, you're going to get all that nice pork goo onto your vegetables. All of that good flavor in the pan is going to get absorbed into your vegetables. Alright, so I got these to about where I want them, which is brown, starting to cook. Now we're going to add the tomatoes that I have. And just so you know, before I said there were 12 tomatoes, I had 2 stinking cherry tomatoes left. And I'm like, what am I going to do with 2 stinking cherry tomatoes? So I just cut those up and now there's 14. Okay, so I made a little opening here in the middle of my veggies. I'm going to stick my pork chops back in that I took out of my warming drawer. Then I'm going to take the juices from the plate, pour that in there. Yeah. Now I like balsamic, so I'm not going to be shy. Oops, a little bit on my oven. Just give it a minute or 2 to let all the flavors get together. So we're just going to turn the stove off and plate up. Tonight, because it's Wednesday and I don't need to be all fancy schmancy, I'm just going to put the veggies on the side, I'm going to put the pork on the side, and then I drizzled whatever sauce was left in the pan on top. But even though it's a Wednesday, it can still be pretty, and there's no reason to send out a sloppy plate. So, and there you go.